Hello everyone, my name is Ali. I am an aspiring author slash graphic novelist specifically, and just gonna acknowledge this is gonna be a very my hair is gonna be a very chill video. The background's a mess. I'm on my webcam right now. And I just wanted to give some tips for querying. I'm an agented author, so I've been meaning to do this for a while. I have a pretty unique story, so that's the first thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say my story. I'm going to say some querying 101 for those who don't know what querying is, and just sort of like traditional publishing 101 and why you would want to query, what would you want in an agent. And then I'm going to give my general tips that I've thought of, my strategy going in. And then I'm going to do something kind of fun, and I'm going to look up articles or like blog posts from other people who have given querying tips, because I was sort of like trying to script sort of this video, and then I was like, what have other people been saying? And I saw these like popular, like popped up on Google, first page of Google articles or something like that, said these querying tips that I really don't agree with. So it was interesting to see, like, that's basically what I'm gonna look up, like not just what are other people saying, but what are other people saying that I don't necessarily agree with, because everyone's gonna have different opinions. And obviously these are people who are also agented, who was also successfully queried, or they wouldn't be giving these advice. So all this to say, this is my opinion. These are all my opinions of how I have done this. And again, I have a very unique story that is not going to happen for most people. So let's get into that. I finished my first novel, a graphic novel script, my first one ever that I'd finished in, I think, September 2024. And I started querying immediately after, like the next day. And I found the person who would be my agent 2 days in, or like 3 days in, something like that. I'll put it in the title. Which makes people be like, you motherfucker, because famously querying can take years, several books, no, definitely not your first book usually, and just like it's like the major first hurdle of traditional publishing, getting an agent, and it usually does not happen that quickly or easily. But there were a few factors that came into it, and a lot of it was luck, but also it was I wrote a good book and I was super prepared, which I will get into. I believe I sent out about 10 queries. I got one offer, who was the person who offered within a few days of me starting querying, slash, because he was one of the first people I queried. And I waited the standard 2 weeks. I had a sort of interest from two other people, who were also from very reputable agencies. One of them ghosted me, which is very, very common in the publishing industry, because that's just the type of industry it is. You will get ghosted because people are busy and it is not a priority for them. One of them steps aside because they couldn't meet my deadline, even though they were interested. And in the end, yeah, I sent out like 10 queries and I only got one offer, and I took that offer. I know it sounds like I may have rushed into it, but I'm really happy. It's been over a year since then. I'm really happy with the agent that I have gotten, and I'm really happy with my choice. It's a really reputable agency. But once again, first, let me just go into a little querying 101 for those of you who are just like really just getting started in this journey. You can skip to this timestamp if you want to get past the basic information. If you're already, deep into this, deep into the trenches, already know what you're doing as far as what querying is. But querying is basically when you send out, let's say, pitches. I know people are going to come at me who are familiar with querying and be like, actually, that's not the best way to describe it. But as far as I see it, querying is basically you pitching yourself, your book, to agents, literary agents, to get a path into traditional publishing. A literary agent is who is going to connect you with publishers, especially big five publishers, but also like most publishers, I would say, that are not like smaller indie presses, do require an agent to pitch them your novel. They just don't take it directly from authors. And the main thing an agent is gonna have that you want, in my opinion at least, this is what I wanted from my agent, is the connections, because they have these personal connections, these professional relationships with a bunch of editors who they can put your work in front of the eyes of. I'm a writer. I say this is my favorite thing to say every time I'm like tripping up my words. I'm a writer. But yeah, without an agent, you're pretty much blocked from a lot of the traditional publishing side of things. And once you have an agent, that's really your pathway. And the agents are like, I don't like this word, but like the gatekeepers is how they've been described sometimes. So the way of getting that is through querying. You send them an email, you send them through a querying tracker, something on their website. You send them a pitch of your novel. You said, hey, I've written this novel called XYZ. It's this many words. It's this genre. Here's what it's about. Would you like to represent me? Here is who I am. That's basically it. And then they decide whether they want to represent you or not. You can get multiple offers and then choose from them, or you can get no offers. Again, this is very common that I feel like most writers won't successfully get an agent, which sounds really depressing. But you know, you have to take into account is that a lot of people really don't know what you're doing, so you're really taking like the best first step if this is one of your first videos, or just if you're looking into the process at all, you're already miles ahead from a lot of other people who just go into this very unprepared. There is chances of this happening. It is an achievable thing, but it also is a really great achievement. Because that's really your first step, other than writing the book, into traditional publishing a novel. Connections is not necessarily the only thing you're looking for from an agent. That is the main thing for me. But there are also other perks, other appeals that are like the editorial vision of an agent. They will sort of work with you. A lot of them will work with you on the novel. A lot of agents are like, I just want to accept a novel that's already pretty much submission ready. Submission being when they start submitting it out to pitching it to editors on your behalf. But a lot of agents are also very editorial, so they will work with you on your project, and they will, you know, do a lot of the helping with the edits as well before they even submit it to publishers, which will then edit it even more. So it's a very long process. Traditional publishing is a very long process, very tedious sometimes, but for me, it's worth it. And this is where I will say that even though I did get agented very quickly, it was very much a like unicorn story there. I then went on to go on submission pretty quickly, and now I have been on submission for, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been over a year and some months. And we're almost ready to say we're dead on submission and go out with another novel. Which is very sad. But again, it just goes to show that you can have a super lucky querying process that, you know, you got an agent immediately, you got a bunch of offers, and then you went with one, and then you died on sub for like 5 books, you know, or you died on sub for 1 or 2 books, and then you get a book deal, or you took years and several books to get an agent, and then once you go on sub, you sell within like 2 days, you know. There's so many variables there, there's so many different types of stories that, you know, one thing doesn't necessarily lead to another. You know, just because you got an agent super quick doesn't mean you're going to get a book deal super quick, and just because it took you years to get an agent doesn't mean you're necessarily going to take that long to get a book deal. You could get a book deal immediately. So basically, just I'm being redundant, but you never know what to expect here. One thing doesn't necessarily translate to another. So one thing that I would definitely say is be realistic and know that you don't know what to expect. And being realistic also means like you can look up the statistics, I don't have them on here, but the statistics of the likelihood of getting an agent and how long it takes most people who do realize that goal, and looking at all the elements. Like again, luck goes into it a lot, not only getting an agent but getting a book deal. A lot of people don't like to admit it, or a lot of people like to focus only on that, but luck is a component, a big component of whether you would get a book deal or an agent. Just like it's extremely relevant, but it's not the only thing that matters at all. Preparation also matters. Preparation is key, because outside of luck, and I like to parrot the luck thing a lot about like acknowledging that with my own special unique querying experience. But it was also, I did work hard on it. I was quite prepared, because again, this was my first novel that I was querying, that I had even finished. But I have been writing my entire life, so I was sort of honing that skill, and I've been wanting to traditional publish for like pretty much my entire life, and before I even knew what it was. But like, since I knew what it was, that is what I wanted to do. Since I knew what querying was, I was studying it, I was researching it, I was like already practicing blurbs for like books I hadn't even written yet, and I was reading so much about it, so I was preparing myself even before I was actively in it. So once I actually started doing this was my first time querying, I I was prepared. I was really prepared for this. The only time you're really going to be able to re-query the same project to a same agent later is if you've made like heavy revisions to it. But there's definitely a thing of under preparing for your querying journey and then like sending out a query that is not ready yet, that you have not done enough research or getting critiques on, maybe that will just ruin your chances with that agent with this particular book, because you can always query with a different book, but like you really only have the one chance and you don't want to blow through your queries, through your list of agents with a poorly designed query that you did not prepare enough for one book. There are things that will get you auto-rejected that you need to look up. You definitely need to look up before you even start on this journey. Like there's very little chance that you and your book are so special that you'll get past some very industry basic rules that are there and important, like auto-reject stuff like the length of the query. There's usually around, I want to say like 400 words that you want to aim for. If it's way too long, if it's way too short, probably going to be an auto-reject, or at least, it's going to make your chances a lot lower. Length of the book as well. I see people trying to like pitch or like, here's my query, can you critique it? And then it says the book is like 200,000 words. No, then the industry, you got to know the industry before you try to enter the industry, and there's not going to be people eager to publish a 200,000 word novel in any, maybe in like epic fantasy, but that's already, a whole different thing. But just like, if you want to publish a contemporary romance novel and it's 200,000 words, that's an auto reject. That's just, not going to work for you. So basically, research all the auto rejects, make sure you're not making any glaring mistakes, and research research is basically what I'm going to recommend for this. And I know you're in the process of this, but other places where you can look at this that are really helpful for me is the subreddit RFM Tips. If you haven't heard it recommended before, please check it out. You do a lot of query critiques on there and generally talking about the traditional publishing industry. They also do these wrap-up posts of like the statistics once they do get an agent. Those are really interesting to look at as well. But yeah, the amount of preparation and research and knowledge definitely went into my own success story that I'd collected for even years before even finishing my first book and before querying. I was ready to go, so I was not making the very common newbie mistakes, and that I was prepared for it to take a while, and that's because like you should prepare for it to take a while, even though sometimes it does happen quickly. Like publishing can be so fucking slow until it's not. My strategy for how to approach querying was to make a list of agents I wanted to query that I knew represented and or were actively looking to represent new writers in my genre and my category. And I will do a side note about me specifically being a graphic novelist soon and how that affects things. But yeah, make sure you're looking through agents through a query manager, query tracker, their manuscript wish list. And like if you don't know where to start with that, you can also just look at the authors you like and like look at the acknowledgments and in their books and look who they're thanking, who was their agent. For me, again, it was a little bit more unique because not many agents are looking to represent graphic novels, graphic novelists. So that's like basically the thing I Googled. What are the agents that are representing graphic novelists? And I found a list of that and I was like, okay. And then I sorted, by, I wanted a really like top agency if possible, at least a reputable agency. I didn't want a smaller one. I wanted at least mid-size, which I did end up getting. And I got some interest from the higher size. I'm a writer. That's basically how I put together my list, and then I ranked them in order of what I wanted to query. So it's decided by a combination of who is currently open for queries and is about to be closed for queries, because not every agent is going to be open for queries at the same time. Sometimes you'll want to query an agent and they've been closed to queries for like 2 years or something like that. And who I most wanted to be my agent, of course, and who is known to reply quicker, because there will be on the agent's websites, you want to take on all the factors. Some of the agent's websites or the agency's websites will say, for example, that we will reply within a week, or we will take up to 4 months to reply, random stuff like that. Not even random, but it's like very important because maybe you do want to query first the people who are known to reply quicker, because then you'll know if it's a no, and then you can go for the people who will take longer, because you have to always prepare if you're going to get a yes quickly. It's rare, but it could be. And then like if you're saving your most wanted agents for last, then you sort of have to make decisions very quickly. But this is like sort of going ahead, because really I wanted to talk about like pacing, because I recommend continuously sending good queries out to as many agents as possible when you're starting your querying your journey until you get an offer. I know some people have a batch system, but if I hadn't gotten that offer so early on, I would have just kept sending daily until I did get one, or I until ran out of people to query. The benefits to doing it in batches and taking pauses for a week or more in between are said to be that if it gives your like preferred agents a chance to actually read your work before 50 other people have it in their inboxes and potentially give you feedback that you'll want to incorporate into your next queries. But in my opinion, it's like this is relevant only for agents who respond fast, because you should not be waiting on them. Like, wait a week at most between batches, because yeah, you might get helpful feedback, but the agents are either going to respond or not respond in whatever timeline they like until you nudge them with an offer from another agent. Until you're like, hey, I have an offer, I'm giving you 2 weeks to potentially offer as well. They're gonna take their damn time. And when they get that email, this might slip through their hands, and then they'll move up your query higher on their to-do list once you email them, and decide right then whether they want to move fast or not to request the rest of your book and potentially rep you. I don't think you should be waiting on them. I don't really think there's much of a benefit to giving them time, because they have all the time in the world, because most likely that's just sitting in their inbox while you're twiddling your thumbs when you could be getting into other people's inboxes. I do remember from some of the blog posts I was seeing from other people that this is one of the things I disagreed with, and they give different reasons, of course, for why you should be waiting in between and doing batches, but I'll get into that when I go into the blog post. But basically, I know people are afraid, like, of giving them the 2 weeks notice too early, and that they'll maybe step aside because they're being rushed, or maybe they wouldn't have if you had given them more time. But baby, that's the business. Like, that could happen whether you sent that query 2 days ago or 2 months ago, because everyone is working on their own timeline. If you want an agent as soon as possible, your best bet is to send the best queries as that you can as soon as possible. I'm not saying rush through it, because again, preparation, but basically don't worry about giving people who don't even know you exist more time to reject you before giving it to someone else. Instead, focus on giving more people the chance to read your work in less time and possibly reject you. That is controversial opinion. Feel free to come up for me in the comments, especially because it is valid to want to wait and see if anyone has feedback before you send more queries. But to me, it's like that is such a hypothetical scenario compared to the practical benefits of getting your queries out there. And I don't feel like you should be sending out queries to agents with the idea of maybe they'll give me feedback to make it better, you know? Because I just feel like you gotta be ready. You gotta commit to it, you know? And again, this is just, again, controversial opinion maybe, and it's just my opinion. This is how I approach things. Maybe you do want to like be open to just like whatever they say to me, then I'm gonna, whatever the first agent says to me, whenever they respond, then I'm gonna switch that thing up in my manuscript, fix it, and then I'm gonna keep querying, and then it's gonna happen again and again. But I'm just like, no, this is the manuscript that I am delivering. If it's not good, then it's not good, you know, but I'm sending it out to as many people as possible. I know people are gonna hate on me for this, but like this is generally what I was doing. And again, because I knew I had a good manuscript, because I was very prepared. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you think you're watching this and you think it's better to batch and wait, and for all the reasons, or just get it out all as soon as you can without waiting. I may just be saying this because again, I was very prepared with what I sent out. I was not planning on continuing to edit my book for the next query every time one agent rejected me saying it's to this or to that because the next agent made disagree. You know, it's all very subjective. I even in like my submission process from we were sending out to editors, especially because I had a very short querying process again, but like especially in my submission process, and it can be in your querying process as well, one agent will say something that they love about the book that another agent hates about it and wants to change it, you know? I mean, they usually won't be that mean that they hate it, but like they'll give differing opinions about the same thing. It's very subjective. It happened to me on submission too. Like some people were like, oh, let's do this. And I was like, no, actually we want more of that. Well, no, we want less of that. You know, it's like, it's a very subjective industry, and these are like the gatekeepers. So you just have to find the one. It just takes one yes. I will say at the very least, if you are going to batch, do big batches of at least like 10 queries at a time, and first query the agents who respond the fastest and who you are actually most interested in. Side bit about how to query a graphic novel specifically, link to a Google Drive or a website that's password protected, like I did, for the art, because usually a lot of agents on their websites who are representing graphic novels will say that they only represent author illustrators. So it's going to be a little bit trickier. I don't have much information. If you're just an author looking for an illustrator, that's very rare these days that they're going to accept that, especially the bigger agencies. Or if you're a team of author and illustrator. I only really know about the both author illustrator part, and so I needed to send my art along with this, but some people like find it confusing because they're like, oh, but I'm not supposed to send email attachments. Another one that could be an auto reject for you, unless the agent specifically requested, because of spam and all that. And sometimes they say they represent graphic novels, but then in their query tracker form thing, they don't allow you to send art. So like, this is a question I've come across that may seem obvious to you, but has not seemed obvious to other people. But yes, in your email or in your query tracker, you can link to a Google Drive or to your website that is password protected, with the art, with the whole pitch, with the sample page and sample art that you have. So no attachments. And there are great lists out there that you can Google of agents and agencies who do rep graphic novelists, because not everyone does. Or, maybe they're open to it, but they don't have those connections and experiences with editors who buy graphic novels. And that's very important, obviously. And another thing I wanted to say was, yes, I did find my agent in 3 days, and also that book that got me an agent has been a submission over a year, and I have not gotten a book deal yet. I already said this, but I really want to highlight it. Does that have anything to do with the agent I picked? Absolutely not. They're amazing, but this is how wild and sporadic publishing can be. So just adjust your expectations, absolutely. Remember all the factors that go into this. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. But yeah, remember all the factors that go into this. Luck, timing, market, the personal lives of a bunch of strangers who work in this industry, the clients they already have, and yes, the book that you've written. Quality of the writing, the trendiness of the topic, the popularity of the genre. This is why our pub tips and like keeping up with Publishers Marketplace, getting a subscription to that would be very good, because you know what's happening in the market all the time, what deals are being made, are they similar to yours, is your genre popular, is romantasy dying, is middle grade dying, what's booming, horror, all that. Publisher Marketplace, great subscription to have for that. They do free trials, I think, and again, places like our pub tips, super recommend. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm on my laptop right now, I'm on my webcam. What I'm gonna do is review what other people are saying about querying tips and see if I disagree. And I do, again, wanna specify that this is with absolutely no shade to the people writing these tips and blogs, because obviously, they're probably way more successful than I am. They probably have way more experience. They also obviously were successful at querying, which is why they're writing this. But it's just to show that everyone has different strategies, everyone has different preferences, and this is just to show mine, because you clicked on this video and now you get in it. So right now I'm looking at an article from Alyssa Matesic called 7 Querying Tips That Will Save You Hours. She says, number 1, query quick to respond agents first. And she says it for querying in batches, somewhere between 6 to 15 queries at a time, because that allows you to wait and see if you get some feedback from agents that you can then use to iterate on your query letter and maybe improve it for the next round of agents that you query, versus blowing through your entire list of agents up front. Again, I already said I don't necessarily agree with this. She says that remember that once an agent rejects your query, that typically is a final decision, so you want to make sure you're putting forth your best query materials and the best version of your manuscript. That is true. This is the one I saw when I was first trying to script this forever ago. Don't query all of your top agents first. I disagree with this. Imagine the scenario, because she's painting out some scenarios, but imagine this scenario. Imagine you start with the agents that you don't love as much, and you immediately get an offer, and you're like, yeah, I got an offer, but maybe I could have gotten an offer from Top Agent McAgent and Mr. Top Agent and Miss Top Agent that I really wanted, and now I will never know if they also would have said yes, because I decided to query the lesser agents first, the people I wanted less. Because yeah, you got an agent, but you'll never know what happened with that other agent. Start with the best ones. Start with the ones you want the most, because you may get a yes. And then once you get a yes, once you get an offer, it is poor etiquette in my opinion. This is what I've heard. If you've heard something different, you can say it. But it is poor etiquette to continue querying other people after you got an offer if you're waiting to say yes. Typically, the the procedure after you get an offer is to be like, hey, can you give me some time to think about it? And what is standard is 2 weeks. More than that is kind of pushing it, maybe 3 weeks. But the standard is 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks to think about it. And that's usually when you go and with the people who you still have an offer out with, you're like, hey, I have an offer. Are you going to offer on this or not? Basically, I'm dumbing it all down. But at that point, it's like, you can nudge everyone who's already has your query, but you shouldn't be continuing to query other people, especially since you're just coming in saying like, I already have an offer. I mean, it's not like impossible, you could do that, but it's just like really not a great strategy, because then you're on a time limit, 2 weeks, to suddenly get responses from people who haven't even received your query yet. So that's why I'm like, query all of your top agents first. Like a complete opposite of what Alyssa here is saying, who I'm sure has, great more expertise in that. But that's my opinion, that you should query all your top agents first, because you never know if you're gonna get a yes from them if you do it, or if you're gonna get a bunch of yeses from the people who you don't want as much, who you're just practicing on, to get their feedback that may or may not exist. I don't know. I just think it's such a missed opportunity if you do that. And she says, who knows? Maybe with that stronger version of your query letter, one of them would have been interested. Don't what if this shit, Like, I feel like I'm trashing her. No, absolutely valid opinion. But for me, I'm like, you cannot be focusing on the what ifs. Well, maybe if I had done that, and maybe if I had done this, you gotta accept and move on, because this will kill you. This will, like, if you obsess over this, it's just not healthy. You gotta do it, commit to it, and accept whatever comes your way. I'm such a hypocrite, by the way, because I also do that. I do like, well, maybe if this, maybe if that, but it's just not healthy. Like, commit to what you do and just, like, improve for the future. Of course, do take the feedback, but could've, should've, would've is my motto, do the best with what you can, and whatever comes. Because there's also that maybe of when something good did happen, but you could have gotten something better because you're doing all this, like, maybe, like, cautious stuff, which is exactly what I'm saying. Query the top agents first. This is something I haven't mentioned that she's mentioning here. Keep in mind if an agency has a requirement that you can only query one agent per agency, even if they reject you, then you might not want to go for rockstar agents. You want to go for, like, junior agents. I didn't even mention that, yes, there will be agencies that are just like, you can query one of us. We have like 10 of us, but if you query one of us and it's a no, then some of them will say, well, you can query another one of us, but only query one at a time. Or some will say, if it's a no from them, then it's a no from all of us. Because agencies will, like, in the agents there will ask around if they don't think this is a good query but not good for them. Maybe they'll ask their, like, partner at the agency and be like, hey, do you want to maybe agent this person? Do you want me to, like, forward this to you? So there's stuff like that happening. But Alyssa's point here is that with the, like, top agents, as she's calling them, rock star agents, they're gonna be super busy with other stuff. Like, there is perks to, like, even in publishing, from top 5 to indie presses, or like little junior agents, I shouldn't call them that, but like top agents and then, like, smaller agents, of the time, the energy they will have towards you versus all their other clients and all the other things that they're doing. Like, that is an advantage of having a smaller agency, a smaller agent, that they will focus more time on you, but it will also mean, they have less connections, they have less experience. So she's saying, if there's a newer agent on the team who also represents your genre and could also be a great fit for your book, you might consider reaching out to them instead of the rockstar agent. If they're earlier in their career, they might be hungrier to build their list and also have more time to dedicate to you if they don't already have a full client load. You don't necessarily want to miss your shot with an agent who could be a great match because you went for that higher tier agent who's probably going to be a lot more selective. I don't know, it's kind of like give and take here, because yeah, maybe you would have a better chance with a junior agent, but also that's but like, it also has to do with the junior agent not being not as good of an agent as what I want to say, but like, they don't have as many connections. However, this is especially relevant in my opinion if it's that a really good agency with a lot of top agents, but also maybe you do want to query one who is newer, who doesn't have as much of a list yet, because even though they're newer, they don't have much of a list. They're not going to be as selective, I guess, but also they do have access to that through their partners at the agency. At least a lot of the time they do, because of what I'm saying of, like, agents talk within each other around and ask for help from each other at the same agencies. So you sort of have, like, both of them. Like, one you would generally, that's sort of what I have at my agency. I queried the president and I got them, but I generally work with his assistant, who is a junior agent, and it's sort of the best of both worlds there, because they all talk. You know, there's a lot of good agents at this agency that I'm working with, and I sort of get expertise from all of them because they talk behind the scenes. She says keep track of your queries. That I do agree with. It's a very good point. But do a little spreadsheet or something. I just had a document of the list of agents, and then I would cross them out, and I would cross them out, and I would put the date that I queried them, and that's basically all I really needed to know. I sound like such a dick doing this because I literally did it for like 2 days and I stopped querying because I got an offer. But if I had kept doing it a long time, that's definitely what I would have done. One other thing that comes up here that I think also is really important to mention is the research you're doing on the agents you're going to query, or if you're choosing between two offers, something you really, really want to keep into account, and is also why you will want to look into getting a publisher's marketplace membership, at least for a little while, is to compare between agents and just check from an agent how many deals they've been doing recently, because they can seem like a superstar agent, a top agent who's like everyone's recommending, but then when you actually look at the deals they've been making, maybe they haven't been making much in the past 5 years, or maybe they have been making a lot of deals, but none of them are in your genre, in your age category, and that does not spell good things for you if you want to, if you know, even if they say they want to rep that kind of book, what does the history say they've been able to sell your type of book in a while? How many deals are they making per year? That sort of thing is like really important, that a lot of people, if they are not investing in that membership, which is quite cheap if you're just doing it temporarily, because I don't have a membership right now. I subscribe to the Children's Marketplace newsletter, but I only get a limited amount of information for that. But when I was choosing an agent, I was like, yeah, I want to know how many deals they've done in my age category, in my genre, and in general. And were those six-figure deals? Were they mid-sized deals? Were they nice? Because there's also a level there that you sort of have to learn for what advances mean. I'm getting some notifications now. I know this has been a very scrappy video, but I do have to finish up soon. And the last thing I want to say is this is not for the weak-hearted. And I know that sounds really badass, but I mean, like, rejection is something you're probably going to have to face a lot of. And it doesn't mean anything about you as a person. Sometimes it's not even about your book. Sometimes it's about the market. Sometimes it's just about vibes, or how someone's day went that day. Sometimes it's about saturation of the genre. Sometimes it's about they love the book, but they're about to publish a book just like that, or they're already repping an author who does that exact same thing. There's so many variables to it, and I would really wish that you did not take it personally, and I should really take my own advice, but like, I'm working on that myself as I go through this journey, not through querying, but now through submission and getting rejections through that, and I will continue throughout this if I actually go more into this career. So yeah, the only thing you should be saying to a rejection is thank you for your time, and that's it. Maybe you can query them again with a different book later, if the opportunity comes up. But definitely don't fight against anyone, and don't be down on yourself about getting these rejections, because it's so normal. This, like, my situation was not normal. It was very unique. It is normal to get tons of rejections and work at this for years before you get a yes, and all it takes is one yes. So good luck. I wanted to make this video for a while because I've been being asked about it a lot because of my unicorn situation. I don't know if it was quite helpful. It was very scrappy, as you can see, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you some other time. Bye bye.